and welcome back to the Driving Talk podcast powered by Icon. We're here trackside once again in a series of bonus episodes we're filming in late into the season. We're kind of looking back at 2024. There's some new stuff that's come along, and we're kind of looking back on the season. We've already heard some things, well, I've heard some things I'm slightly concerned about, and we're going on into 2025, potentially what's to come, and we're having a bit of a catch-up. So I'm here with Nick Ramsey Gough and Katie Ramsey Gough, directors of Driven Minds. So, guys, we've had you on the show loads before. Lots has been going on. We're here at the BRSCC Driven by Racing show. Driven Minds are exhibiting here, but you've been out in a new car, Nick.
Oh, yes, I have.
So this week, the BRSCC did the release of something that's going to incorporate over their Production Cup and their Pro Sprint Cup, which is basically the sprint category versions of what they've got in Club Sport Trophy and the Super Sport Endurance. So power to weight, lots of classes, lots of frantic racing. Obviously, Production Cup's more production cars, Sprint Cups for you big guys. Get with me so far. Yeah. But they released the DS3 Cup this week that, for me, is bloody good value for money. And you've been out in that car today.
Oh, yeah. I've been out in that today. And that car is, it's sitting somewhere between your TTs and your BMW 1 Series Super Cup. And your
on the BRSCC package.
On the BRSCC package. And it's got nearly double the brake horsepower of your city cars.
Yeah.
And 130 brake. It's a pretty simple build aside from the usual strip it, cage it. And then it just seems like it's going to be a fun car. That's a nice step up for people who perhaps have done a couple of seasons in city car and want a bit more power and want to have a bit more fun.
Yeah, because I think there is a bit of that gap there between the likes of city car and going into more powerful engines and cars. And I think it sets people up. It's a good, like you say, a good stepping stone. Get used to the feel of slightly more power behind you, and then you can move on to something else. But it's a smart looking car, and we looked at the cost of the build kit and gone, actually, this is actually really reasonable. Which is why Nick was out in the car today. So I'm taking him out the logins for all our savings accounts because I can see some purchasing going on.
What's going on cost wise for it? Because they've got a pretty good show. They've got a pretty good deal on at the moment.
Yeah, do you know what? I think it's $7,000 for the build kit, and that's including 2 free entries to the Sprint Cup, Pro Sprint Cup. Can't remember which
so they're putting it as a class in there for this year.
Yeah.
Right.
So
that's not bad value. So that's that plus donor car.
That's including your cage fitting as well. So you don't have to muck around with that.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So you can probably build a car and have a couple of races racing for $8,000 probably.
Yeah. I mean, you could probably pick up a bit of a shed for $1,000. Auctions are always a bit of a lottery. But if you pick up a tidy example of a DS3, what are they? $2-3 grand at the most. I mean, I know since the budget used car prices have gone up, I'm sure we'll come on to that. The way the budget has kind of affected things going forward. But DS3 Cup, do you think good value for money for what it is?
It has to be, yeah. It's got to be good value racing, and it's going to create a class that's probably missing, which is that middle ground. You can go and look at these, like say your Super Cups or your TTs. They're big horsepower turbo engine builds, and you've got your basic build kit for them that's perhaps $10,000 maybe, but you need to go above the basic. Yeah,
100%. Because everyone will buy the extras to be competitive.
Yeah. And then you're very quickly into a $20,000 race car, which that's a lot of money to have in a race car.
It's a lot of money to put forward if you're running a business and with certain other things going on at the moment. I won't stipulate too much about what's going on with the wider world of economics and government, but we'll come to that, I'm sure, and how it's going to affect it. But people might be a bit reticent over the winter on purchasing new race cars, putting together a new series. Don't know. We'll see how that pans out. But you really enjoy driving it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm going to be looking at DS3s on eBay tonight. Put it that way.
Yeah, I mean to be fair, French hot hatches have always driven well since the Peugeot 205, Renault 5s.
Yeah.
The French have always made a good hot hatch. So it kind of seems like a natural base to put in any.
Yeah.
It's definitely a warm hatch.
Yeah.
It's perhaps not quite hot hatch.
Not as preppy as before, but if you put that into context, the original Peugeot 205 was what, 10 horsepower.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, they did call it the Widowmaker because the chassis folded quite a bit when you pranged them, but many people that would have stuck them in the ditch in the 80s would have potentially found out. But
I've heard that there is a DS3 that's done many laps of Silverstone without fail.
yeah,
Yeah,
has it got lights on the top?
that's the one.
The C1 Racing safety car. Do you know what it doesn't do laps of? Oxford, because the story behind that, the poor lad that was driving it on behalf of Silver Lake, who sponsored the series and supplied the safety car, the poor lad was stuck in traffic in Oxford and had a bit of a fender bender on the way to the race here during this season. So unfortunately, the safety car didn't quite make it.
I'm just wondering if that's up for sale, maybe. Could make a good donor car.
Never been raced or rallied.
Yeah.
I suppose it would make quite a good little donor car.
It was sad seeing it looking very sorry for itself in the paddock.
Was.
And obviously myself as coordinator got asked the question a few times of what happened to it, and I had to
Yeah.
very quickly say it was not me driving it. It was looking a bit
So
sad.
obviously we're here for the BROCC show, and before anyone asks, we're not advertising BROCC or anything like that. We do our own views. We just do a bit of partnership work with them as Driven Minds. I sit here as a Driven Minds ambassador. But I actually want to talk about another series that's been released recently that's actually got a bit. They released it earlier in the year, and they got cars out in the Burkitt, which was here, and the cars actually look quite good out on track. And it's a car that I think is a bit underrated, the Suzuki Swift. 750 Motor Club have released that, and I'm quite looking forward to see how that goes.
Yeah.
So I imagine that's a similar sort of concept, probably low 100s brake horsepower,
Yeah.
Japanese, so probably will carry on going and going
And going.
and going
Yeah.
And going.
and going.
But 750 have always been good at having those one makes. They had stock hatch, which then has now become classic stock hatch.
Yeah.
They've always had great one make formulas to come out, and I think the Suzuki Swift is a great little car to have.
Do you know, and we had obviously done British Motor Show this year as Driven Minds, and
Yes.
we had the 116i trophy car on
Yeah.
the stand, and do you know what, in another world, that would really interest me. I think that's probably a good little peppy car as well. So yeah, you're right, they're same as BRCC, trying to put some good stuff out into club racing.
Yeah, and I think some people, I mean, the costs are absolutely astronomical. I've already heard rumours that circuits, and this isn't from actually the show, this is from weeks ago as well. We've had a few people kind of confirm it here from individual championships as well that aren't even affiliated to any clubs or anything, like individual ones. And circuit hire costs per minute are going up by like 5-10% reported in some cases.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Surely it's got to stop.
It is pricing people out of the sport, and I think it's difficult when you're entering as a race and as a driver and a team, that you're going to have to foot the bill, of that circuit hire. It all trickles down. There's only so much that clubs can do to try and sort of, prevent it sort of going too far. But if people want to race at certain circuits, you're kind of at mercy at them. If they want to put their prices up, it's you race or you don't. It's simple as
Too
that.
many people with too many fingers and too many pies at the minute, and
I
it's
think so.
affecting us.
I think there's a bit of that. I mean, I spoke to someone at Racer Remembrance. We'll come to Racer Remembrance shortly. But I spoke to Chris Slater, who runs the RAF, who helps run the RAF motorsport side of things, and they won the Racer Remembrance, and he's posted out in Germany at the moment. So he's going racing in Germany, effectively club motorsport, and he's doing 2.5-hour endurance racing for €350. So
How much is the tunnel?
A tunnel.
well, that's the thing. The costs will soon mount up if you by the time you've done your travel and everything over there. But it's crazy the disparity in pricing from this country to other people.
And then you think, for this, even if it's the same cost, and you can go to these circuits in Europe and experience something a bit different, it does make you wonder: do you want to sit under 8 layers of fleeces, in a UK circuit, or actually let's put the same amount of money elsewhere and actually have a bit of an adventure and go somewhere else?
Estoril in December doesn't sound too bad.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. To be fair, I did get the chance to go out to Estoril, but I just haven't got the holiday left. So it's one of those things. But Mr. Palmer's now got Navarra out in Spain. Modified Fords went there, and it was a great circuit, great facilities. They've invested a lot of money into it. So I'm wondering if Jonathan Palmer kind of knows something we don't. He's not allowed to buy any more tracks in the UK. We know that he's limited by the competition regulations and authorities. But I'm wondering if he's just kind of thought, right, okay, so I'm going to branch out into Europe. He bought the block of land in Spain by a circuit.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if he's just going to carry on in Europe or maybe retire to a nice resort out in Spain and tick over.
I'd love to know what the crack was with people going out there and how much it did cost them in reality to get out there, because although the numbers are perhaps lower this year than you'd like to have seen, everybody that I've spoken to that's come back from there said that it was brilliant. So yeah, you know, if you can get your car over there and not pay the world and go through the hassle.
The big cost for me was the ferry. So the reason I didn't go, first of all, I was in Greece on holiday, which you can't. On a very nice budget holiday for everyone, you know. I'm very lucky to be able to go on holiday, but it's nowhere. It wouldn't cost us near as much as me having to go to Navarra, because a big cost of that would have been the ferry, and of course van, trailer. You've then got to sort out the carnet, which is all the post-Brexit paperwork you've now got to do, stuff like that. That all falls into it. So I'm thinking by the time you're done with it, it's at least a couple of grand. Entry fee, fuel, tyres, weekend accommodation. It becomes very expensive very quickly. Yeah.
But then you look at the costs here and you go, well, if you're able to have it in a way that it, you know, I can understand it can be intimidating going to a new circuit, you're going, you know, traveling a lot further, and like you say, the regulations of bringing in trailers and bringing in cars in and out of you know, all that kind of stuff. If it was nicely organised, someone you could say, yeah, you can pay your fee and off you go, and you just turn up. If teams are happy to do it, it's a good alternative. And I think everyone gets a bit of an itch over winter of, I don't want to wait until April to start racing again. Yeah. And then there's a tasty deal comes up to go out to Portugal or whatever for, you know, a bit of winter racing then.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was chatting to the Alpha Live guys, and they're covering a Porsche winter series in southern Europe, so or I think maybe the Middle East, somewhere nice and warm, and they're like, yeah, ideal. And a lot of guys that are racing professionally over here in Porsche series and other professional stuff, Ferrari, GT, stuff like that, they'll go and do that in the winter. So it's really a year-round thing at the moment for up-and-comers.
So what we're saying is that winter club racing is becoming more accessible, and UK club racing is becoming less accessible.
Something like that. But
pretty much where we've got to.
It's one, and I mean, I've said it on previous podcasts, and perhaps, you know, I've upset a few people. I care deeply about the sport, and I worry about the sport. I really do. You know, when I go out and do the live stream presenting, and I put my heart and soul into it because I'm talking about something that I'm so passionate about. Yeah. And I'm genuinely worried for the sport at the moment because of the spiralling costs. I mean, so Labour released the current budget. It's not been very popular either. How do you think that's potentially going to affect motorsport?
I think when it comes to motorsport, it's a lot of people are relying on, you know, that spare income that you have to pull into essentially what is a hobby for a large majority of us. And then you go to people who rely on sponsorship for the more expensive side of racing, and sponsorship is already difficult enough to obtain. You know, you've got to you've got to show that return on investment or get that buy-in. And a time when there's been change of governments, change, you know, the budgets and change in tax rules and all uncertainty, because budget comes out, but actually the reality of how it's going to work is still to be decided. And that's all that uncertainty builds up to, maybe I won't invest in this, maybe I won't offer that cash, maybe I need to sort of squirrel it away for something else. And then that has a knock-on effect on motorsport. You know, and
decisions just not getting made. It's not necessarily a no, but it's also not a yes. And you're in limbo as a driver, and that's probably the worst place to be over winter. And certainly at the beginning of the year is when you're sort of a bit there, but you're not quite fully there with your budget. And that's when you see people who drop out last minute. And none of us like to see that. It's whether it's your favourite sort of professional driver or, you know, a good decent club race. You don't want to see people nearly there and not quite there because of stupid finance.
And we've had conversations today with people who are, you know, in that position of not just figuring out what they want to do next year in terms of racing, but it's great to find a series that you want to enter, but then it's the money that you need to fund it, and already approaching companies already to kind of get that conversation going, and it's been either I'm not right now or we just can't commit to anything, you know. And you've got race series who need to fill their grids, they need to show that they can get those full grids early, and you've got this kind of knife edge of when it's all going to come together or not. And I think we had this worry, I guess, at the start of the season, didn't we? We had these conversations of grids were looking a bit small and down on last year, and whether that's going to continue into next year.
Well, I mean, starters, we mean to go on then, guys. 2024. Where are we at with motorsport? I've asked it a few. I've kind of thrown the conversation in there, thrown the question in on previous podcasts of where is British motorsport right now. But let's just talk 2024. So we have seen in some instances grids have gone down, dwindled. Some have really suffered. I'm very proud of the fact that I sat in a committee meeting last night with the modified Fords chaps, and we averaged 36 cars on the grid over the season. That included a round at Knockhill and a round at Navarra where we had lower numbers.
Yeah.
But we had other rounds where we had 46, 47 entries, and that really bulked up the average. That's bucking a trend. I think the C1's doing the same because you've got lots of people who are able to buy in. Enduro KA can do the same. 116 Trophy can do the same. So I think they're great examples of people finding ways to go racing with a smaller budget, perhaps.
And it'd be interesting to see, you know, what makes those series so successful in their grid numbers. And I know particularly from a C1 endurance side, I think the Anglesey 24-hour was a big wake-up call of the reality of grids not being full and people not committing soon enough.
And we spoke about it before, that was probably the turning point.
Yeah. But then I see yourself and Modified Fords and the way you speak about that community, and it's just a strong, tight-knit grid. And I think that, I don't know whether you tell me how that's contributed to keeping those grids high.
I think it has. Another big part of it, I believe, and I'll shout about him now, is Paul Neville. So he puts his heart and soul into it, and he helps with the funding in terms of he takes the collateral on it. I mean, if I told you the numbers for the turnover for a season in terms of spending, they are eye-watering, absolutely eye-watering. And
he doesn't take a penny out of it, does he?
No, it's run as a not-for-profit. Yeah. So last night, all of the spreadsheets and everything are laid out in the open, so we get to see what the turnover is for the series, what the costs are. They are absolutely eye-watering. I'm not going to say exactly what they are, but it is a six-figure sum. Yeah. And a lot of that, a big chunk of that, I would say probably 60% of that, 70% of that is circuit hire. Yeah. Cost to be on the grid.
Do you think that it would be beneficial for more transparency in circuit costs to clubs, to entrants, and people can see where the money's going?
I think so.
Would it force some change?
I think so. I think there needs to be a bit more dialogue from our governing body. You know, Motorsport UK. I've been critical about Motorsport UK in the past, and they do some things absolutely brilliantly, and I feel some things they may be lacking in.
Yeah.
You know, and we all have paddock sort of chats, and we think, you know, what our gripes are and stuff like that. I think this is perhaps a point where Motorsport UK needs to get everyone around and go, right, guys, what's going on? What are you facing? I had a few chats at Brands Hatch at 4 Power Live with people that book other series, so they book series independently, and they talk with the likes of Motorsport Vision and the people that run like Croft, Pembrey, Thruxton, and it's things like insurance increases, business rate increases, energy costs. 100%, I get that, but I think if they were to be completely transparent and go, look, this is why it's this much. I get businesses have to make a little bit off the top.
Yeah, but you think of, you know,
to then invest back into the business. I get that, but sometimes you've just kind of got to go, right, where's this? Yeah,
and you see it in energy companies. You know, we have this energy crisis, and the costs are spiralling, and then you've got British Gas who are posting record profits, and you're like, well, hold on a second. Yeah. What's happening? That we're paying more, and your profits are increasing, and you know, we've all felt it from a personal situation of costs increasing. We get that, but it's how much is it the cost, and then they're still taking a level of profit on top.
Yeah, I think it's like I say, with the circuit side of things, it's difficult to follow, because at the end of the day, if they're going to reduce grids, that is going to impact them eventually. Yeah. However, I suppose the alternative is that they just put on more corporate days or more track days at the weekends, which they probably will still fill. And that's the worry, isn't it? That we lose our club racing. Yeah. Entirely.
I have a feeling that's potentially going on a bit more here. You know, again, a few conversations we have with a lot of people, and you put 2 and 2 together and kind of go, right, okay. But unfortunately, the corporate days do pay well for the circuits.
Yeah.
Well,
And the F1.
But does it though? See, the thing with the F1, I always remember back in the day when you used to talk of the deals that Bernie did and getting F1 Silverstone, and then we had the debacle where it nearly went to Donington Park and Donington nearly went bust as a result. And it's like, right, okay. And several different people have told me, and I've even overheard a conversation when I've been in an office here that Silverstone only really care about the Grand Prix, the Classic that they do, and a few other Blue Ribbon events. They don't even want the MotoGP here by all accounts. So I hear. So that kind of worries me, because you always see Silverstone as that Blue Ribbon circuit, the home of British motorsport.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of was it last year or the year before where they took it to track days are now all in house, so you can't go to your open tracks or your javelins and book a track day at Silverstone. Everything's through there, and straight away you see the cost for a track day at Silverstone go. And it's like the same price as a test day now, which, you know...
Yeah. Because no competition. If people want to... There's people who want to drive Silverstone. It's an iconic circuit. People want to be there. So to monopolise that in terms of a track day, if you want to go, you're going to have to pay it. So you're going to have to pay
a premium, So
it's a scary place. In general, I just feel like motorsport is quite out of touch and behind at the minute and not really looking after us as racers or fans. And, you know, not the best thing... to say,
no, I get it. There's a lot of genuine worries out there. I mean, to cut some positives about British Motorsport 2024, I've talked about British touring cars and how that's gone. I love the fact that Jake Hill won it.
Yes. Yeah, it was... I know Nick's sat there, I know, but...
It's good for the sport. It is good
for
the
I think so. Yeah, but I think the whole title fight going down to the wire like that, but with the respect shown by both drivers, can actually show you that, yes, they can door back, and they raced hard side by side everywhere. There was no... It's
a brilliant generation. You see, the same as when Tom won it the year before.
Yeah,
Ash straight away come over with his number and put it on his car. Yeah. Like, that is what you want to see. You've got 3-4 good drivers there that all support each other. Yeah. And they basically treat each other as colleagues with respect. Yeah. And it's only good for us to watch, isn't it?
I'd say so. Yeah. I think British Touring Cars has been a big winner this year, and I'm really enjoying the fact that they've kind of lowered the grid size, but it's not. It's we've heard this so many times of people saying it, but it really is quality over quantity.
Yeah, I feel like it's benefited the racing this year. Yeah. You know, having that smaller grid. Of course, there'll be drivers out there who wish they were on the grid and they wish there were more cars there. But I think overall we've had a really good season, and like you say, down to the wire. Yeah. So let's see what next season holds. Definitely.
Fingers crossed. Your own racing this year, City Car Cup. You've sold the car today, actually.
The car's do I need to say anything, or does that just describe?
I think that sums up the season in one sentence.
Oh, bless you. So what made you sell it?
I think for me. And it's no disrespect to anybody that I'm racing with, I'm just coming to, especially Citroen racing, from the background, and what Robin's done with the endurance racing is build a club mentality where everybody is super fair, and the first thing first is you've got to finish a 3-hour race.
Yeah.
So this was my first foray into sprint racing.
Yeah.
And you have to be a little bit more impolite. You have to get your elbows out a little more. But what I experienced this year, to be honest with you, it just isn't how I like to race.
Right.
And so when you're coming away from a weekend with damage and not feeling happy about that, and you know, it's fair to say some people will probably look at my results and go, "Oh, he's not won," or da da da. So that's why he's. It's not about that. It's about if I came away from this
you've
year,
been reasonably competitive.
I've done okay, not as good as I'd like to be, but for me, I've done that, but also come away with a car that's battered weekend after weekend, and through no fault of my own, you know, and that's what's frustrating to me, and I just can't. I haven't got the time or the mental capacity to compete in a championship. Probably full stop in terms of sprint racing. I probably haven't got that mental capacity to compete in a championship weekend after weekend and just pick myself back up and go every time. I think that's why I like the series racing, and I like the longer races where you can get into a bit of a rhythm.
It's proper racecraft. Like I feel like I could be a bit more. I think maybe less polite about it, and I think there's an element of that's my husband racing, and it's our money that is getting crushed into this C1. But watching back a footage after a race weekend, and it's moves that are just totally unnecessary and stupid, and that's what's getting people further up the grid, and it's infuriating to watch. I've come from an endurance background, and you don't need those stupid moves. You're quick without having to do that. And I feel like it's giving, no offense to City Car guys, maybe some results that they're given because they've had the aggression to pull moves and cause contact and get themselves further up the grid, rather than actually it's clean, fair racing.
I think if you looked at, take Chris Parks and Alistair May as an example, who are renowned, very clean, very quick endurance racers. They've both gone into City Car this season and mixed that up and got podiums and got wins. But even at times, Chris has been drawn into incidents that he just never would have got. And to be fair to him, he's the calmest, most chill guy I know.
He's been like punted off and been like, it's fine.
He can have a 3-round weekend and get punted into the barrier on every single one of those rounds and be like, it's racing, I'm happy, I'm racing. I'm like, where do I get that mentality?
Where do I get that?
that mentality. So maybe I need some like coaching with Chris this off season. But
And I know Nick's a clean driver. Like he's renowned for it, and you race with respect, you race with the right space and allowing a good clean racing, and I just don't think that's happened this season. And all the drivers got together at the beginning of the year and all agreed, let's have some good clean racing. There was a lot of wasted time last year with safety cars and people didn't get a full good weekend of racing.
And it worked.
And it worked for
two
weekends, and then the elbows started to come out. And I think Cadwell was an absolute turning point, particularly for me. I've never been so angry running down to the clerk of the course before. And obviously with Cadwell, you're stuck. So I had to sit there seething.
You sat there at the gate ready to go across the road.
And at one point they weren't going to let me cross the circuit because the next race starting, and I was like, I need to get this footage down before I lose my mind. And I think the marshal took one look at me and went, yes, you can go, and let me go down. But I think that was a turning point, particularly for me, of it's unnecessary. There's absolutely no need.
But like I say, I've got an endurance car back.
Yes.
With Tom Brown. Can't wait to get out there. I think I'm going to start the next race. I'm going to start the next race.
Well, that was the other thing as well. I mean, we talk about the contact there. Unfortunately, Tom, bless him, was caught out on the national circuit on the back straight here, and he ended up clobbering the bridge and was going to hospital, and he had I think at least a couple of broken bones, couple of broken ribs. His back's gone, and he's luckily he's recovered now, but that was quite a scary shunt.
We went a car that was 1.5 foot off to the left at the front.
No, literally it was bent like a banana.
It was bad.
It's about 3 races.
Such an avoidable incident.
Clumsy more than anything, but still it shows it can happen. So the fact that I've seen it in a couple of weekends this year across all different clubs and live streams and stuff like that, where I think I saw one race might have been Brands Hatch the other day, like a couple of weeks back, and it was just safety car after safety car, and then red flags after red, and it's like, come on guys, let's just. And it was because it was late on into the season, and it's going to be a bit of a. But.
And I think one of the things I've sort of, I guess, learned being in a coordinator role this year is, I used to think there's a difference between, someone's deliberately done something stupid on track because they want to get ahead, did a stupid overtake, not thinking about it, and that's resulted in contact and an incident. And I thought, well, that's worse than someone who's just been clumsy or just not realised or naive. And actually, at the end of the season, I've gone, well, no, because the outcome's still the same. So I don't think one is worse than the other. I think if it's, just not.
I don't know,
We've all had conversation about driving standards, and I think overall, not just in the motorsport world, I think the world in general. Obviously I'm back. When I left Silver Lake and went back to what I was doing before, I'm out on the road a lot now. And I see drivers out on the road, and just since COVID, standards overall out on the road and on the racetrack have just dipped.
Yeah, I wonder if there's something to be said, like obviously in your first 2 years of passing your driving test, you've got 6 points as opposed to 12 as your capacity.
Do you reckon do that for a race licence?
Yeah. Why not? Why not say, look, if you've been involved in that many incidents in your first 6 races, you go back and you do your ART again, or you go and do a advanced learner course, or do you know what I mean? Like, I think without speaking too badly of our governing body, we're focused on too much that isn't involved in actually looking at racing incidents, and I don't mean racing incidents, I mean incidents within racing. We're not looking at them enough, and we're looking too much at stuff outside of that. And I love Race with Respect, it's there for a reason, but when you start to hide behind that for stupid things like someone said a swear word in a paddock, at the end of the day we can be hot-headed individuals. You're allowed to have a few thoughts and then calm down. That's not hurt anybody.
And then afterwards you shake hands and get it over and done with.
And I'd much rather a driver sort of use swearing as a way of getting out their frustrations, rather than using their fists or using. Well,
you guys know I swear a lot in general conversation. It's not fun. Yeah, exactly. Well, it's
that's us banned from YouTube.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's but it's not through malice or anything like that.
No.
And other people, more old-fashioned people, would kind of say, no, you shouldn't be doing that, etc., etc. That's just how I am. But I get it. It's a way to sort of release frustration. At least if someone's going into Parc Fermé to beat the living daylights out of another driver, that's when it comes in.
And I've seen fisticuffs in Parc Fermé.
But sometimes it's just funny because it's like, guys, you're wearing helmets.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I've got my helmet there. You give that a little knock, and they're hard.
Yeah, they're gonna hurt.
It's gonna hurt if you try and punch one. Sometimes you just got to let that happen, just so that when they're in the med centre with bleeding hands, you go, well, you're stupid, aren't you? Anyway, but I completely get it. Someone venting their frustrations, and let's face it, getting a little bit miffed because your heart's going bang, 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 and you've just got out of a car and your adrenaline's going. You're not going to think straight sometimes.
No, and to punish that kind of incident in a harsher way than perhaps someone who has knocked someone into a bridge or even just spun someone out into a barrier, to me is backwards.
Yeah, it's a little bit straight. But we've seen it even at the highest echelons of the sport with F1.
I'm not a Max Verstappen fan. Anyone knows me knows that Max Red Bull. It's not on my top of my list of favourite teams or drivers. However, I fully get where Max is coming from. Why are you focusing on swearing or that kind of language? You should be focusing on what's happening out on track.
You should be focusing on his bad
yes, I was going to say, but the irony being that his driving standards are also questionable. I'd much rather that be tackled and making sure that everyone's in agreement of how to overtake and track limits and everything else, rather than the swearing. For fuck's sake.
But no, 100%, I get it. Race of respect is a good thing.
Yeah.
It's been brought in because there were a number of incidents, and hey, we've had a few incidents this year that have been documented that have gone to national court. There was a national championship where a clerk got, had someone coming in, a team owner that was threatening, and that's got to come out of it. Having a bit of afters in the team truck with another driver. To be fair, sometimes you've got to be a little bit right. Come on, guys, I'll bang your heads together.
Yeah. I think it's taking the circumstances into account. I think the context is really relevant.
Yeah.
I had a massive go at someone at the start of the year at Oldham Park. We had TCRs out, and their qualifying was red flagged. One of their cars was in the pits, and a marshal was behind the car trying to tell them to stop. And they were so focused on they wanted to get their car out, they hadn't noticed that there was a red flag.
Yeah.
And then one of the team members is effing and blinding this marshal, calling him effing this and effing that.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's a red flag, I'm telling you to stop rushing and stop
Was
trying
it
to
a
push
team
your
owner?
car out. And to me, I'm just like, that's what race of respect's there for. These guys is giving up your weekend so you can be here.
Yeah.
That to me is race of respect. Sort yourself out.
Yeah. In that scenario wasn't a life and death, near miss incident or anything like that would, I would say, would warrant that way of shouting and swearing. It was a team boss. That was a team boss wanting to get his customer car out.
Yeah.
To be fair, when I had to go in and told him what was wrong, he did actually go in and apologise.
Yeah, very true.
There we go. So that's the situation there that's been sorted out and done spot on.
Yeah. But then I have an element of sympathy of, particularly of motorsport. We talked about the costs earlier and making sure that, a race weekend runs well. I can see where that frustration comes from. so much is riding on these team owners that you can see that frustration. And I guess
I think there's a lot riding on race weekends in general. I mean, there's people from the clerk's office to the organising club that they've got to make sure the race routing runs well, so they've got happy customers.
Yeah.
And team owners are going to be running customers in cars, and they've got to make sure they run well. And then you've got little old me rocking up in my Ford, hoping I have a good time driving. It's probably going to be down on the list of priorities.
But you're paying the bills.
Well, yeah, effectively, we all pay the same entry fees.
And this is the thing, it's what takes priority, because if you were to line up all the different roles over race weekends and areas, if you were to give them a priority list of what's the most important down to least important, there'll be differences throughout, whether you're the circuit supervisors down to actually the racing clubs, teams, drivers, and it's how do you manage that. And I think particularly for me this year, my frustration has been predominantly around that, of actually why are we here and what are we doing, what decisions being made, who is it truly benefiting, is it from a racing club perspective or a driver perspective, and what's most important.
Everyone needs to sort of have a happy medium with it. Get their share of happiness out of it. You can't have someone pour it, because there are organising people and organisations that it's not their full-time job, so you have volunteers that come in and stuff like that. So they're doing it for a reason, because they're passionate about the sport. Marshals are doing it for free as well. You've got to keep them engaged with the sport.
How's your racing gone this year, Rob?
It's gone alright. It's gone alright. I'm going to do my own video on how 2024's gone for me, because I'm kind of going to go, not on the pod, just on my YouTube channel. Check it out, Rob Lewis Racing and Comms on YouTube. That. Do you know what? First year with a turbo, and I've talked through various rounds that I've done this year, and I've fallen in love with the turbo. It's the first time running with a turbo engine. I've fallen in love with the extra power. The car just feels so much better to drive.
Yeah.
So I was running the Z-Tech that was built before, and MJA built me a lovely engine, and she barked and she howled, and it was full of testosterone and kick-ass and all of that. But the problem is, I would be ragging the nuts out of it, and I'm thinking, if this goes pop, I'm screwed.
Yeah.
Because that was a 4 or 5 grand build, which to a lot of people would be like, I put 10, 15 grand into my engine. Well, for me, that's a lot of money. I'm looking at a dog box, and that's a dream at the moment. We'll come to that, but that's a dream for me at the moment. But, now I've got an EcoBoost in there that was bought from someone that was actually breaking their Fiesta that got rear-ended. So, I got it for pretty good money with the gearbox. Ka-ching. And I've got 300 horsepower, so it's about 100 more than I had before. I've got loads more torque, and it feels just so much more drivable, because it's effectively a road engine. And TRS have done a great job mapping it, and the hybrid turbo runs really well. So it's just learning to race with the turbo, but the car's and it's just, I've just got in it, got my head down this year. We've had a couple of little snags, obviously.
She's been a naughty girl.
She's been a naughty girl at times. I've had to. The funny thing is, it was when I released the video from Donington where I hammered the steering wheel and swore a few times, and you were like, "Oh, spicy Rob."
Spicy Rob.
That was me frustration, because I was up for that, and then of course first few laps, and I'm like, why is my turbo going, like, trying to send 2 bar of boost in and blow itself to bits for a bit of pipe that was like 20p, but genuine Ford, so it was like £20 instead. And it's the little lessons you learn along the way. But the past few, Browns was a bit meh for me, but I have a renewed confidence going racing this year, and Snetterton was a real high point, because although I retired from race 2 with the drive shaft letting go, at race 1 I'm sat on the grid as the fastest front wheel drive car, and that was like, okay, I can do this.
Oh yeah, you can do this. You can pedal. Actually, speaking of can do this, you were out today.
I did. I have tried for the first time. For the first time ever, I have sampled C1 machinery. I did a 125, which is way off the pace. Because all through it, I'm like, this isn't my car.
Yep.
I'm just doing this to try. It's my first time in the car, and George Davis, who was next to me, bless him, he Motorsport UK Academy, he just wants everyone to go fast. So he's coaching me. He's like, you need to do this, you need to do that. And I was just like, it's all right, George. I'm just having a try at the car. We're not looking to set that records.
That's tomorrow.
but we still got our heads down and just kind of did a few laps, and we just gained a second a lap, and then another second, and then another second, and it was like, oh, okay, session over.
Chip in testing, when he was here for his first race weekend, he started off at 126s. So I think you've done a good job. You can probably give yourself a pat on the back. 125, that's the right direction, especially with ballast in your passenger seat. Yes, with a person in your passenger seat, I suppose.
What a nice way to be referred to as ballast.
If you're watching, George, well done. If you're not, good.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, we'll take a break and we will be back after this. Welcome back, everyone. So we've looked a little bit through, we've talked a bit about costs, being here, we've tried new cars, we've got a couple of new series that are kind of proper low spec that excites us. British touring cars was good. What else about Motorsport 2024 do you want to talk about? About your seasons?
I think, Katie, you need to speak about your new role this year.
Yes.
And your behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes.
How's that gone for you?
I feel like I was too negative Nelly in the first part of this. I feel like to be a bit more positive. And there's definitely a lot of positives from coordinating this year. It's been an eye-opener. I think seeing the other side, previously coordinating a team and managing a team, and obviously you've got your own priorities, what you want, how you want things to work, and then you can see it from the other side of actually why things are the way that they are. And basically babysitting a ton of drivers and teams and cars. I think that's been an eye-opener, but in a good way. I think I've hopefully sort of improved throughout the season over the various kind of race weekends and knowing what people need from a coordinator, and particularly with timetabling, and you'll have a timetable, but there's always that drive to run early, to factor in things like red flags and incidents on track and things like that. And I think it's having that bridge of communication between the garage and up with the clerk of the course, and making sure there's a good communication flow, everyone's on the right page, and everyone enjoys the racing, at the end of the day.
Do you think we need some new blood upstairs?
Yes. I felt, particularly at the beginning, and I appreciate I was a new face, and let's be fair, motorsport is very male still, and I think it's to go into that office, and I'm probably, that's a really harsh thing, the youngest by a fair distance, and I'm not a spring chicken myself. And I think motorsport in itself and the way of racing has changed over the years, and it is progressing. And I think it's making sure that progression is going to the clerks of the course and going to the people making those decisions and running the racing, and making sure that everyone is, like I say, on that same page. And there's moments where I've thought, are these decisions being made for the benefit of racing, or are decisions being made for the benefit of the people in the office wanting to go home on time? And that's probably saying in a really brutal way, and I hope I don't get sacked for saying this. But it's making sure we're doing things the right way for the right reasons. There can be a rule book, and I think, particularly with my day job, there's a rule book, but then you look at circumstances and go, well, does that rule outcome or what you typically do, does that fit the situation? And when it doesn't fit that situation, you have some flex. And I think that kind of approach I'd like to see more in racing, of technically the rule book will say this, but actually what's the benefit of enforcing that? Is it actually going to cause more harm than good?
So remembering that we're all human.
Yeah, definitely. And it's whether people, I can understand a driver being full of emotion, they're upset, and going to the clerk of the course, and they've got full of that adrenaline. And I think it's being more understanding of the people side of it, and seeing, okay, they're angry, they're upset, they're saying a certain thing in a certain way. What are they actually trying to tell me here? And then making a decision on the back of that, rather than how they're going into the office. It's things like that. But it's an overall it's been positive, but I think there's definitely some learnings and things that we can do to improve going forward.
Fantastic. And more into 2025, you hope?
Yes.
Please don't sack her.
Yeah, please don't. Please don't.
No, joke.
No, dude.
I think I see a lot of, I think us in motorsport like a whinge. We do. I'm definitely, guilty of it. we do like to have a moan, and we'll moan about the same things year on about, you know, anything from budgets, costs. We've just done it for the first part of this. But I want to see more, you know, okay, let's take on that feedback and make some changes, or listen, or be open-minded to take on that criticism and that feedback and go, actually, you know, this is how we've always done something. Is there a way we can make it better? Is there overall going to be a bigger benefit in doing this? And kind of, you know, invite more people into the sport. You know, I think if you catch certain people over a race weekend in the wrong moment, they'll give a very bleak view. And I think it's how can we minimise that to make sure we keep our grids high, keep people in racing, and don't see things die off. You know.
100%.
Absolutely. The good thing about 20, so let's bring some positivity. As you said, Katie, good things that you've enjoyed seeing on the motorsport paddocks in 2024.
It's been a difficult year for me, but I've seen, no, there has definitely been some highlights. You know, like have seen some friends in like City Car who were perhaps novices last year and have come through and developed, and I love seeing that. I actually probably get more emotional about other people's success than my own.
Can we do a little shout out to Alistair Baring?
Yeah.
Just really quickly, because he's one of those drivers who is just so keen to learn and progress and improve, and I feel like he's had gremlins this year with engine problems and not always having the results that he truly deserves as he's growing and developing in that car.
Yeah.
But to keep seeing him come back, you know, for the next round and raring to go and smiling
happy.
And seeing those progression, and his parents are amazing as well, and sort of seeing them, you know, really kind of invested in that journey for him. So no, it's been great to see. And he had some really good results this year.
Yeah, I think like a massive highlight for me personally as well was getting the ambassadors out in that car at Donington in Robin's car, which he very kindly allowed us to race at Donington. We had Amelia,
Vincent,
Ricky, and
Morgan.
Ricky Morgan.
There we go, in the car. And I...
Director.
Yeah.
It's been a long season.
And I was just about to say, I feel quite proud that through a bit of effort I managed to make that happen. Obviously, like I say, huge thank you to Robin for allowing that to happen, but you know, that to me was a real big achievement. It wasn't me in the car, but I absolutely love seeing other people out there racing with the club for the first time and you know, getting a reward for putting a bit of effort in and being an ambassador for the sport, which is you know, for the good of everyone. So that was a big highlight actually.
Yeah, and seeing all three of them jump out that car and go, that was a lot of fun, can we go do that again? You know, that's the reaction you want when someone jumps out of a race car, is have that feeling. And you know, they're all kind of brand new into that car and new into that series, so you know, you're against people who have been doing it for years. You know, it's managing expectations, but for what they did in that context was amazing, and I think it was great to see. I think from a Driven Minds perspective, it was a great feeling that weekend.
Yeah, another big highlight. I think we had a fucking good laugh with doing the C1 socials this year.
Yeah, we've had some fun. I've eaten pigeon. I've been spat on when Huck Tour came out. I've had more water thrown on me, which wasn't urine. Katie technically peed on me with a water bottle from the next to. We've had some fun with it.
We've had some fun, and that's really, for me, it's been like part of the joy of motorsport. I think as a group, we've come a lot closer this year as well. And you know, that's actually for every crap weekend that I've had. I've always had great fun at the endurance weekends. It's been brilliant. So there is highlights, there is positives.
Massive positives.
Yeah.
And I went and covered Race of Remembrance last week. A big positive for me was seeing what motorsport can do for change. So two things actually. First of all, sustainable fuel wins Race of Remembrance. That for me, geek out here, big tick. The stuff smells like vinegar, by the way.
Oh no.
But I'm told there are now 6-7 companies now that are making sustainable fuel for motorsport. And Motorsport UK have now released regulations. They want to get sustainable fuel in club racing by 2028, 2030-ish. And they're starting to write regs in to do that.
I like it.
But it needs to start somewhere. It needs to start somewhere.
Do you know what?
And the costs are going to come down. The more you make, the more volume you get, the more the costs are going to come down.
You'll attest to this. We went to Mr. Scramble together, didn't we?
Yes.
A few weeks ago, and when you showed me, is it Zero Fuels?
Yeah, Paddy Lowe's.
Like I didn't know that was happening, and I feel quite ignorant, but I was like dumbstruck. It's like you're taking water and carbon, is it, or something
Yeah,
like that?
literally air.
And
Yeah.
creating petrol. And
Yeah.
like, well, why have we even looked at electric cars and hybrids? What are we mucking
Yeah.
around with? This is the future.
Well, let's be honest, and we spoke about this in the last podcast with James Black and Alex Solly and Alex Keynes. But you know, sustainable fuel now being British touring cars, and they're going to do turbo boost instead, ditching hybrids. WRC have now announced they're going the same route. They have ditched hybrid. They're going fully sustainable. Formula One is going fully sustainable. Motorsport is starting to set the standard for life, maybe.
And I think that helps bring in the next generation of racers. You know, I always sort of talk about the Gen Z and that kind of generation and what their key priorities are, you know, and it is around sustainability and motorsport. You know, we always joke about truck racing. They go past and the trees wilt because you know what the fuel that they're burning. So if we can get a more sustainable form of racing, it will tap into that young generation who will kind of prop up our motorsport scene and continue it on.
So it won't be the Gen Z, it'll be the Gen V10s coming back.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
I want to hear those engines
But-
screaming past.
You know, once again, for me, it's proving that motorsport is setting the standard for future technologies. If you look at, you know, disc brakes, ABS, stability control, traction control, all developed using motorsport. Sustainable fuel is being developed using motorsport.
Yeah.
Big tick. And so going on to Race of Remembrance, the other thing for me, makes me a bit emotional thinking about this, but Operation Motorsport, Mission Motorsport, Operation Motorsport, the work that the veterans are doing using motorsport, I'm getting emotional now. The work that they're doing and going into it, and I did a garage tour of Operation Motorsport. It's the last time they're going to be in the UK because they're doing their own race in the US next year at Virginia Speedway.
Right.
And you know, IMSA are backing it. Amazon, AWS are getting involved. CrowdStrike, they've been getting involved anyway, but they're getting involved in this race. But I spoke to the drivers there and interviewed them, and you hear their stories. And there's one guy there; it's his first time there, and he's like, "This is giving me something now."
Yeah.
I had 20 years in the military, and his dad was on one of the cars, so they have service vets' names on the cars. You know, his dad was in Vietnam.
Wow.
He you know, he served 20 years in the military, and he goes, you know, and there was just a bit where I said, do you want to say hello to anyone at home? They're watching, they're proud of you, just you know, and he broke down doing it. And I put after we did the segment, and I spoke to Hunter Reeve as well, so he went there as a beneficiary, as a member of the team, and now he's driving one of the cars, and he was like, I never thought I'd be here. And at that point I put the microphone down and went back, and I bawled my eyes out and gave him a massive hug. But seeing what motorsport can do, again, this is the passion. I love this sport. I absolutely love this sport, and I want nothing but good to come from it.
Yeah. It's such an escape for people, you know, for, like you say, like a race of remembrance. But in any other series, race weekends, there's people who are needing that outlet and that escape from something. And I guess like that, you want to protect it. And as much as I will whinge about things, it's to protect. It's to protect it.
Christ,
you know.
I mean, I've had a couple of episodes recently where we've had a good whinge and we've moaned about people and governing bodies and clubs.
Because we love it.
Yeah.
Because we love
Because we
it.
love it. At the end of the day, we all want the best for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, we want full grids. We want cars making so much noise. We want cars barreling into turn one, going side by side, and hopefully nothing happening at the other end. You're going to get crashes every once in a while, and sometimes you're going to go, oh, that hurt, but that was quite good, wasn't it? But you know what? That's motorsport.
Yeah.
We love it. And I really hope that 2025 starts off better.
Yeah. I think it will.
Yeah.
I think, you know, there's always a comeback, isn't there?
There's shoots of hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got to look, I look at from my day job perspective, and we've gone from not knowing what's going on with general elections and things like that this year, where people, like I said, mentioned, don't make decisions, but also you find people don't spend money when there's uncertainty.
Yeah.
Like the new budget or not, it's now there. We do have certainty.
So everyone kind of knows.
And you can then budget around it yourself. So you might find people go, right, perhaps I wanted to do X. I can't do X, but I can do Y down here now, and I know I can do that.
Yeah.
So
I had a chat with Emma Cross today, who runs the MG Metro Cup, bless her, and she said to me as well, they run as an independent series, and I sort of said, the budget will affect things as well, and she went, yeah. She said, but I'm an accountant. She said, and there are ways and means around these things. There always are. She said, so the people will find a way. I think, hopefully.
Yeah.
The people will find a way. It was once said to me that when, the GFC happened in 2008, the blue chip sponsors were few and far between. Mm-hmm. We've had the cost of living crisis where it's hurt the working man, and I just don't think we're quite out of it yet.
No.
No.
I think, like you said, there is some uncertainty, but it's finding ways around it, and that little pivot of, okay, maybe my plans for next year won't be as ambitious as I initially sort of set them out to be, but what else can we do? And I think if you want to race a car, you will find a way to race a car.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what you remember. At the end of the day, we're all here to have fun, aren't we? And it is our passion, it's our hobby, and we all want to come here to have fun. And as long as you can fit into somewhere and you've got that certainty, I think you'll find grids will pick up again next year. Mm-hmm. Now that we know where we are. Fingers crossed.
And I genuinely mean that for all clubs. I don't, albeit I say we're here at BRSCC, but I think for all of motorsport, I just want all of the clubs to have full grids and happy people.
For nearly all of motorsport.
Yeah.
For nearly all. No, but it's been sad. There's been we've got an unhealthy habit of going on TSL on race weekends, and we'll look at various kind of race series. We'll go on the results, and you look at this
and there are some results where you go, oh God, no.
And it's like 8 cars on a grid, and you're like, oh, for God's sake, how is that enjoyable?
Yeah.
People want to compete against a full grid.
I've looked at GT Cup and Brit Car this year and thought, 2 years ago, GT Cup was big. It was big, and this year you've got 1 or 2 cars in a class, and it's crazy. And even Brit Car.
I do find great amusement in some of the cars that did finish first in their class because they were the only one. Yeah. And they put it all over social media.
They get a trophy.
That's 2024's pet peeve. That is.
That is probably my 2024 motorsport ick. It's probably that. But it's not their fault, It's
Brit Car used to be a completely different animal, and used to basically be almost like what your club enduros and your super sports are, but a little bit on crack. Like, you had some longer races there, and we haven't really got that anymore.
No.
And I think that would be nice to see. That would be nice to compete if it came back, and the budgets were there. Like, something a bit different, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't think, unfortunately, rose-tinted glasses are a wonderful thing. Are you thinking of sort of the Silverstone 24 Hours here, where you saw all the cars that Clarkson was passing? The 924s and the Integras and all the lovely cars.
Yeah, that was nice.
So but that was proper 24-hour racing and effectively a Group N production up to GT3 standard.
Yeah.
You have the variance through the field.
Let's have a 6-hour or a 12-hour. Paul, BRCC, if you're listening, Super Sport, 6-hour races.
Yeah, maybe. Well, Creventic had the 24 hours here, and they did it for 1 year, and then they left. Mm-hmm. It was too expensive. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I won't start moaning again. But it kind of shows they go and do 24 hours in Dubai and Barcelona, and they're a bit warmer because at the moment it's about 4 degrees outside, and I'm freezing my nut off.
Robin, can we have a 24-hour in Dubai for the Silverstone next year? Can we do that?
What always does look like a good event? Burkitt Relay. That's your kind of 6-hour intergroup racing.
That is just an absolute. I don't know. I'm going to call it the 6 hours of confusion because I still don't understand the rules.
I don't get it. I don't understand.
Yeah, but it's just something a bit different. I like to see that. I think I am definitely like one of those who sees a shiny new thing and I'm like, yeah, on board. Like a DS3, for example. I'm straight on board. Some of us just want to see new
I'll
stuff.
find out tomorrow he's paid a deposit on something.
Yeah, those life savings are taking a spanking, I can tell you.
I want to do some DIY next year, but that's not happening.
A reasonable spanking. Thanks very much.
Yeah, a reasonable, cost-effective spanking. I like the sound of that. Cost-effective spanking.
Cost-effective spanking.
Yeah, that's Amsterdam territory. But
October, November, December. You're there soon.
Yeah, I'm there soon. Yeah, next month. I'm not going there for a cost-effective spanking. And on that note, thank you, ladies and gents, for 2024. This has been been enjoyable as the first of our bonus episodes, just talking over the season.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. You've been on the podcast several times.
Yeah, thank you.
And,
I think that's where the thank you needs to come
No,
from.
you've been a great support from the podcast since day one. Driven Minds. It's been through some change this year.
Yeah, it's been an interesting year, I think, for us. And I think we look back and we feel guilty in moments, particularly more recently. We've both recently changed jobs, a lot more intense ones than we were previously. So we've been very restrictive on time, and that's meant that we are a little bit more quiet on socials, and our focus is more on building for next year. Mm-hmm. So we have these waves of pangs of guilt and sort of frustration in ourselves. And we've had, a great team of ambassadors and champions around us to pick us back up and go, no, we can see the good that you're doing, and we can see how hard you're working to make it succeed.
Yeah.
Be better to yourselves, than you have been recently. But
and I think the same. Next year looks like it's going to be a good one, and we've got some exciting changes happening. Perhaps won't release them just yet, but things are happening. More people are joining, shall we say, and it's going to be a really good 2025. And we're going to get some marshals for mental health first aid training, because we do have the budget there now.
We do.
So
we've got a lovely bit of funding in the bank account that we can start getting some courses paid for, and so over winter that's what they can focus on, ready for the next season.
Yeah.
Superb. Keep up the good work, guys. And funnily enough, we will see Driven Minds at the Bicester Scramble, won't we?
Yes, we will.
January the 5th. We won't mention any other shows at the moment because, that might be for another podcast episode at the start of 2025. But thank you once again, Nick Ramsey Gough, Katie Ramsey Gough, or Nick Ramsey Gooch if you look at the name on his new race car.
Katie's
I've been your host, Robert Lewis. We will be back soon with Max. I need to sit down with Max. He's currently getting drunk in the Silverstone wing.
Literally just over there.
Literally the other side
Like a
of the
gate crash.
I think we should just give him a call and we'll see how many beers in he is.
Yeah, just see if we can gate crash and kidnap a drunk Max Coates.
Now that would be a podcast episode.
That would be a very good podcast.
Let's keep the setup here. Let's go grab him and bring him back.
Go grab
and
him.
let's see what happens.
When he's absolutely steaming and just, get it back.
Tell us what you really think, Max.
Absolutely. But this has been the Driving Talk podcast, powered by Icon. Thank you for listening to this episode. There are more bonus episodes coming. We're talking 2024, coming up to Christmas. We'll see you soon.